Hello, thank you very much for inviting me. So you already heard a bit about tokenization, so let me take the topic again from a bit different angle. So I want to talk about tokenization of private companies. I'm from Germany and we have GmbHs and I have a particular talk about this. But let's go a little bit back to the history. So I first started with Bitcoin in 2013. And Bitcoin really was about digital ownership. This is still the main topic in Web3 about most of the things we do. When I read the Ethereum white paper, this was end of 2014, you already see there this code snippet here. This was actually the first implementation of a token. And Ethereum was there to make it general. Like you can have all kinds of tokens. Later on, we developed a standard called ERC20 standard. With this ERC20 standard, you saw all kinds of token rise. But this is kind of the origin, like coming from Bitcoin, from Ether, and now to all kinds of tokens. Then in 2016, I was part, or I authored something which you might know if you have been around at the time, TheDAO. I don't want to go into the depths of it. I want to go very quickly through it because we want to see some learning to the token world of today. So in 2016, we wanted to raise money for Slockit, my company. I was the CEO, so I wrote the DAO smart contracts intended to be a decentralized autonomous organization which would then fund startups or projects in the sharing economy space. This was the narrative back then. So the DAO in the beginning was very successful. It raised about 11.5 million Ether, which was about 12 to 40% of the total supply. Back then about $160 million. And because of this, Ethereum and the DAO, of course, in particular, got a lot of attention. So a lot of people actually came into the Ethereum space during that time. So this was exciting. We got a lot of press globally looking at what is this thing, a decentralized autonomous organization. And people started to think about what is this token? What does a DAO token mean? And we just basically opened up the minds of a lot of people, lawyers, investors, what is this thing? The DAO was fairly distributed. It had about 23,500 addresses. We don't know how many people were behind it. The top 50 holders collectively owned 42%. So compared to many other token projects, it was pretty distributed from day one. You all know what happened. I don't want to go through all the story. So there was a hack. The hack was discussed how to solve the solution. In the end, there was a hard fork, and now we have Ethereum and Ethereum Classic. I like this quote by T.S. Eliot, who said, "You never know how far you can go until you've gone too far." Yes, the DAO was too early, too big, too much. So, but this is now enough for the DAO. But what happened afterwards? So you see this little thing in the beginning here, this 166 million in 2016, and then you see this ICO craziness coming afterwards. So we had in 2017 and 18 billions of dollars being raised through ICOs. We know that many of those companies were fraudulent or outright scams, so many bad projects, but the fundraising process itself was pretty nice. You just send some Ether or stable coins, you get some tokens back. You can see the total market cap of the company. You can transparently see every token moving, exchanging the value on exchanges. So the fundraising process was really nice, just the projects not that much. So what happened afterwards? Everybody wanted to start doing it. Let's just make it legal somehow, because the SEC said we cannot do this, or in Germany the BaFin. And now they started with security tokens. It seems like this is an easy thing. You just have a stock or equity or share and you tokenize it somehow. But not all, but many of the projects did one big mistake. They just did leave everything as is. We have our company, we have our equity or stock, and now we have a token and say they are somehow connected, usually through a contract. But they didn't take off, and there are many reasons for this. And one main reason, and a problem I later on will describe how we solved it, is that there are investment contracts, meaning the first token issuer has an investment contract buying those tokens because they are securities. And every time they are traded, sometimes in hand, really written, but mostly just digital, sometimes a DocuSign link, sometimes just in the HEB, or the terms and conditions, saying there is a contract between the buyer and the seller. And so technically, that's what our lawyers explained us, is the biggest problem with many of those security tokens. If you buy one, there is a chain of contracts, like investor A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and if one of them has an invalid contract for some reason, like he was not authorized to sell those tokens, his 8-year-old daughter signed this contract or transferred the token, for whatever reason there is an invalid contract, then technically all the rights of these investors are still with this person. So you might have a token, but all the rights are still with someone else, because in this chain of contracts there's an invalid link. So there's a quote by Buckminster Fuller, and I think this describes a lot what we do in Ethereum. He said, you never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. So we now try to think this through from this ICO fundraising experience and also the legal realities, and how can we build a better token or a better security. If you take one step back, a firm is just a group of people who's united through contracts with a joint mission. Mostly they have limited liability, something which most DAO projects don't have. That's maybe the main reason you want to have a limited liability company. You might want to have limited liability. So then the next topic is governance. You saw DAOs. DAOs are really good at managing public goods. You see the ENS DAO and other DAOs, which are not really for product development and for fast decision making, but for keeping and conserving good protocols. And so maintenance of protocols, community ownership, public goods, that's what DAOs are good for. A traditional firm is good for product development, finding product market fit, fast iterations. And so that's something I learned from maybe the last 10 years. I would not start a DAO again to build a product, what we tried to do in 2016. A DAO might come later if you want to keep it, conserve it, or give it to the community and have something which is a public good or more like a protocol. So that's why firms and classic companies still have a place also in the crypto ecosystem. So now I'm from Germany, and we have focused our solution on GmbHs, which is like an LLC. And why is this the case? So in Germany, we have about 1.15 million GmbHs compared to 15,000 AGs, which is like an Inc. in the US. So why? There's a simple setup, low capital requirements, less rules, and it's just much, much easier to do. If you look at fundraising, people are using convertible notes, and you have all seen them. I have signed them myself as a business angel. I have received them. And if you look at the details, they're actually horrible. Because they are not investments, they are just giving out a loan with interest, a maturity date, something you actually don't want to do. They are just a workaround, more or less, to an actual investment, to actually get equity or a stake in the company. Or you go to the notary, which is a cumbersome and very expensive process. Another problem we have in the non-crypto space, like the GmbHs, you have those investors or stakeholders, and they all have very different assets. So you have the founders who have actual shares in the company, you have investors who might have a convertible note, then you have employees who have something like virtual shares or VSOPs, ESOPs, all those kinds of things, but those are different assets, so they are not tradable. You cannot have them on the secondary market. So a token helps to unify this, and so all those different stakeholders have the same unified asset. So you can think of this as the public blockchain being like a layer 2, where I don't need to explain you how a token works. It's cheap, programmable, you have access to the DeFi ecosystem. And the layer 1 in Germany would be the Handelsregister, it's a public registry where only the notary has access. And we don't intend to change this because that's almost impossible, and that's not our goal. But how can we link them very strongly together? And here we have used something which is called Auslobung, or public award. And I want to shortly explain this because that's the key value proposition of what we did different than anybody else when it comes to security token. I explained to you this problem of having this chain of contracts where a single weak link makes the token worthless. Because every time the token exchanged hands, there is implicitly a contract. If the contract is not valid, the value is gone. So when there is existing something, Auslobung, a German word, the best English translation I could find is public award. It works differently. It is a one-sided contract where someone promises something to the public and is rewarding an action. Let me give you an example. If I say to you, if you solve this math puzzle, you can get 1 million euro. And you don't have to sign this promise. I'm giving this promise, legally binding, that whoever solves this problem gets 1 million euro. And whoever comes will get this money. He can take me to court if I don't give him the money, because I promised this. So this is a legally binding promise which doesn't need to be signed by the other side, only by one side. And this is what we use for the token. What we say is, whoever is holding the token is rewarded with dividends and liquidation proceeds. Whoever is giving the token back to the company has a right to convert it to actual shares. But it sounds so simple, but we reward the action. There is no investment contract needed. It's just however you got the token doesn't matter. If you perform the action of sending back the token to the company, then the company has publicly announced that it will reward everyone who is doing so by giving out actual shares, then they get shares. Or the company has publicly announced whoever holds tokens is for this action rewarded with dividends. So we throw away this list of contracts. We don't need those investment contracts. We just base it on this action. And that's how we solve this problem of linking the token to the value of a company share. So now let's just go very quickly through this. Yes, you get dividends, liquidation proceeds, exit participation, information rights, and a put option which gives you a right to get actual shares. So that's why the token has the exact economic value as an actual share. But you don't need any investment contracts because you get it based on actions you can only do when holding a token or sending a token back. That's the key part. With this, we have actually created a token which represents a company share just without the voting rights. The voting rights can only be get if you actually convert them to actual shares. So my time is almost up. So what can you do with this? I call it fundraising as it's supposed to be. You can make private offers to some persons like business angels and others, where you can create a link on our platform and they see the terms, they can click accept, send the money, get the token, done. So we have done it with about a dozen of business angels almost now, and it's so easy fundraising that way. Like today, if someone would say, I'm interested in investing in this company, just give him the link with the terms and be done with it. So, and public offer, I like to call it continuous fundraising, because we always think about seed round, series A, B, C, D. The only reason we do so is because it's so much work and such a big process to do a fundraise. But if it's a token, you can say it's a continuous fundraising process. You can have a public offer where you can say, those are the terms, price per token, market cap, and so on. And at those terms, you allow the public to invest. So you just have an Invest Now button on your website, someone can click it, and according to those terms, buy those tokens. And this is what I call continuous fundraising. Of course, you can also do employee participation. We have vesting smart contracts with, for example, 4 years vesting, 1 year cliff. And according to those smart contracts, those employees get minting rights to receive those tokens. And the interesting part is they would have the same tokens as investors. So it's possible to trade them on a secondary market. When it comes to regulation, I like this tweet from Alex who said it would be cool if you could put Nansen equity into Uniswap without going to jail. That's our goal. So if we have those tokens, yes, we are treating them like securities today, and on our platform we are having just to fulfill all those requirements, KYC, AML, and so on. But once you do, yes, you can trade them. Maybe the Uniswap interface is not showing them because they're securities, but on our interface you can show them because, yes, you have a gatekeeping in terms of KYC, and then you can actually trade those tokens. So Tokenized acts under the liability umbrella, so we have a broker license, and with this we can allow all our customers to have a public fundraising, allowing the public to invest. And we just have to do those KYC AML checks, and then you can raise up to 8 million euros in Europe with this regulation framework we are part of. And we just want to bring this experience of the fundraising process back to actual companies, which is very similar to what you see in the ICO space, hopefully with much, much better projects. And those can be GmbHs. So let me close with our mission statement. We want to enable everyone to become a co-owner of a company. And I think with Ethereum as our base, we're using the public Ethereum chain. we have the right tools to do so, and now we have the right legal framework to do so. You can visit tokenize.it to learn more about this. Thank you very much. Thanks.